Hello, and welcome to On the Turf, hosted by three guys who have never been on the turf. My name is Arjun and Rohan.
I'm Rohan Patel.
And we're joined again by Kamil Lemdani. I'm really sorry I messed up. Lemdani.
Takes a couple run-throughs.
Yeah, that was our first run-through. But anyway, Kamil is our four-time guest on the show.
Yeah.
At this point, he's just becoming our resident guest host.
He might be Shri.
He might be
just
Shri.
might be Shri.
Do you remember the first episode we brought him on? It was actually the audition because we were doing the whole Shri's replacement storyline.
Oh, yeah.
So you're actually fulfilling the prophecy at this point.
Sorry, Herman.
Yeah. But Shri can't make it this week. That's okay. Good luck on your final, Shri. But it's been a couple weeks since all of us have been here on the show, so we're really excited to talk about all these teams in the AFC and NFC playoff picture because Week 13, we're getting there already, right in the thick of it. Kamil, obviously you're a resident Bills fan here at On the Turf. Before we dive into the AFC, and we'll certainly talk about the Bills' playoff hopes a little bit, but would you like to reflect on last week's Bills-Eagles game? I'm sure, as I know as your roommate, you have a lot to say about the state of the Buffalo Bills.
We're about to hear a soliloquy right now.
No. Actually, I'll try to be more terse in my analysis this time around.
I see. By the way, he's dressing the part.
I take the show very seriously. I wanted to get succinctly to the point and just say a few words. Those words being fire Sean McDermott. And I rest my case. Okay. Straight to the point. That's what we like. But let's dive in. We're on the topic of the AFC. We'll talk about the Bills when we get to the wild card race. Still alive for the division, certainly. But the race for the AFC 1 seed. We have four teams who are basically in the dead heat right now. The Ravens are going on to their bye week this week. They're sitting at 9-3. You have three other teams, the Chiefs, Dolphins, and Jaguars, who are all at 8-3. The Kansas City Chiefs, the reigning Super Bowl champions, have beat both the Dolphins and the Jaguars, and they will not play the Ravens this year. All these teams are essentially at the same place. The Chiefs are expected to probably win this week against the Packers. The Jaguars, I believe, are playing against Cincinnati, who they'll beat most likely, and the Dolphins are playing the Commanders. So all of these teams likely will be 9-3 going into the next week.
Yeah.
So at this point in the season, who do you guys think is most likely to get the 1 seed? Based on how the schedules for these teams down the stretch, I think Kansas City is the easiest one down the stretch, and which is why I think Kansas City, having beaten the Dolphins and the Jaguars, will likely be the 1 seed, in my opinion.
First of all, I just think that this is what I've been waiting for. Like, this is what I wanted last year. I thought there was finally going to be a top-heavy AFC where the top teams are actually, are going to end with, I think, 3 to 5 losses, and then the bottom teams are going to be pretty bad. I think that's really coming to fruition here. I don't know. I think the Ravens right now are playing their best football out of all of these teams. I think they're the most well-rounded. I think they have the least holes, and they, by far, have the best defense out of all of these teams. Although the Chiefs are a close second.
All these teams have very improving defenses, I will say. The Dolphins, too.
Yeah, but I think the Ravens are just on a different level right now than everyone else. They're making, not only are they playing good defense like the Chiefs are, but they're making splash plays, too. Sacks, picks, forced fumbles. You saw that against the Chargers last week.
He saw that.
His Ravens defense on fantasy scored 17 points to beat.
From a 2% chance.
Yeah, from a 2% chance to beat me. I don't want to talk about it. But
it's a real 3-1 lead.
Yeah. But because of that, I'm going to pick Ravens. They got a few divisional games coming up. I think they take all of them, and I'd be surprised if they lose another game this year.
Yeah, Rohan, everything you just said, I completely concur with. I think the Ravens have far and away the most complete overall roster. I think we have really unfairly treated Lamar, especially with our perceptions of him, and I think we've attributed way too much of his struggles to himself when it was really a stagnant offense in Greg Roman, and we see that in a much more completely different offense now that is capable of winning them those close games. They're able to control the run, pound the rock, but there's also just a new wrinkle in the passing game that we really haven't seen before that is forcing defenses to adapt and respect Lamar more than they were doing under Greg Roman. And you pair that with an extremely competent splash play defense that has just been stout all year. I really think the Ravens are far and away the best team in the AFC, the most complete team. And it's not to say that the Chiefs don't have a shot or anything like that. I just don't have much faith right now in the way the Chiefs are playing, that they'll see it out to the 1 seed. Come to the playoffs, I think it'll be a completely different story once Reed and Mahomes lock down. I think the regular season right now, the 1 seed should go to the Ravens.
Look, one thing I'll say about the Ravens is I think their schedule is a lot harder than these other teams. So
I was just looking.
The Ravens are playing 2 of these. They're going to play the Dolphins and the Jaguars. They're going to play the Steelers, which, it's never easy, Steelers-Ravens. It's going to be Week 18.
Who do the Chiefs have?
The Chiefs,
They have
Chiefs,
they have the Bills coming up. They have the Patriots. They have the Raiders, the Bengals, and the Chargers.
I mean, those are all very.
I think those
easy
are all
games
very
outside of the
winnable
Bills,
games.
I'd say.
Outside of the
I really
Bills,
knew nothing about the schedule.
if the Chargers are in contention week 18, that could be a tough game too. But I don't know. I think the Chiefs could. I think you're going to say like they could like take advantage of the fact.
I
that
think the
these
Chiefs
teams
are going to run the table here. To be honest with you, I think the Bills is the only potential loss I see left.
The other teams could cannibalize themselves too, essentially with these games. But Chiefs look beatable sometimes, and they've played some weak games.
But I think you can make the same argument for the Ravens right now. I think look, I mean, I will agree. I think the Ravens right now, on paper, are the most complete team. But I think the Ravens, unlike the Chiefs, and we've seen this also, in the same kind of way to the Jaguars, I think the Ravens are a more elevated form of this, is that they tend to sometimes falter in these big games. With a big lead, I trust the Chiefs. I even trust, I'd say, the Dolphins with a big lead. But I don't really trust the Ravens because, Harbaugh, whether it's in-game coaching, whether it's Lamar sometimes struggling to adjust mid-game, I just think against good teams, the Ravens sometimes have a habit of losing. I mean, that Chargers game, that was very close for a long time. And the Ravens are a much better team than the Chargers. The Ravens lost to the Browns a couple weeks ago as well.
But honestly, a type of win like the one against the Chargers only really solidifies my faith in the Ravens, showing me they're capable of winning games in those scrappy manner where if Lamar isn't going to have an on day, you can rely on the defense and, overall game management to win you that game.
It's true.
I just have faith in the Ravens.
I also think the Jaguars are kind of fraudulent. So
Still?
that's story for another
I
time.
I thought they've convinced me over these past
They're
couple
not
weeks.
fraudulent. It's a clutch team, man.
They're a good team.
It's a good
I don't know
team.
if they're a Super Bowl team this year, but I think they're a very good team. What do you guys think about the Dolphins? We haven't talked about the Dolphins much.
Who do the Jags have?
Coming up in their schedule, I'll have to check. But I mean, moving on to the Dolphins first. I think with the Dolphins, I think it's still the same team. Unfortunately, I think that this is a very good team. If they're favored, they'll win, pretty much. If they're playing a team that's worse than them, they will win.
Yeah, they win the games they're supposed to.
Put them up against a good team, I think they struggle. But the Dolphins coming up, they got a tough schedule. I mean, first they get 3 easy games, and the Commanders, the Titans, the Jets. I think they take those. But the last 3 games are Cowboys, Ravens, Bills.
That could be 3 straight losses. I think if the
games.
Bills are in it by then.
Tough games.
The Bills could
and
essentially win the division with that type of schedule if they manage to win out somehow.
Okay, let's chill. Let's relax.
saying.
And then put in the Cowboys. We'll talk about the Cowboys, but that Cowboys-Dolphins matchup will fascinate me, really.
Yeah.
But moving on, to wild card. I'd say we have one team miraculously where it seems like they're poised to make the playoffs, and that's the Steelers. Now, I'm not just saying that as a Steelers fan. I think somehow this team, and first of all, we haven't talked about the Matt Canada thing. His offense already looks better.
So much better.
Somehow this team is 7-4. Don't really understand it, to be honest with you. And they've had the toughest strength of schedule so far this year. They've gotten through, their losses are to the Niners, the Texans, the Browns, and the Jaguars. I'd say those are 4 French top 10 teams, if not all of them top 10 teams. That being said, the Steelers play the Cardinals. They'll play the Patriots. They'll play the Bengals again. They'll play the Seahawks. The only hard game left is what we already talked about, the Ravens in Week 18.
Well, Seahawks as well.
Seahawks is
I guess
tough
the
team.
Seahawks.
They play the Colts too. Colts are pesky right now.
Yeah,
Colts can win as well.
but
Colts are
I mean,
in contention for. So I don't know why they're not.
oh, they should be on.
Yeah.
But Steelers, what do we guys? I will say I think this team is going to make the playoffs. I think there's 4 wins left on the schedule. I think 11 wins will easily get them in. But what do you guys think as non-Steeler fans about this team's playoff chances in Week 13?
Yeah, as much as I hate to say it, I don't see a world in which they don't make the playoffs. They win too many of these close games. Easy schedule coming up. I think it's unfortunately in the stars for them.
Last time I was on this show, you could go back to that episode, and I'll just reiterate my take from back then. Nothing has changed since. The Steelers are the Steelers, and I mean that in the best possible way. Tomlin will have this team coached, playing hard, playing above, at least with their offensive talent at quarterback and overall would indicate. And there's still signs of improvement in that front, which I think should be terrifying for the AFC teams, because this is a defense that can absolutely go out and steal a game or 2 in the playoffs.
Yeah, let's chill. They're fraudulent.
No, come on. The defense. The
defense is good, but I think I think their offensive quality is not nowhere near good enough to win a playoff game.
I saw a team this last Sunday that seems to understand what its philosophy is and figured out finally how to use both of the running backs and how to implement the passing game and to not be afraid to attack the middle of the field. And I think it's not going to be some world-beating offense on the level of the Ravens or the Chiefs most days, but I think it'll be the type of offense that can keep them in games and where they could lean on the defense.
I mean, I think the Steelers' run game has really taken a complete revitalization in the second half of the season. And that's not just Matt Canada did play a role in that, and I think that's the kind of thing that could potentially win them a playoff game. But if I think we're all in agreement, the Steelers are likely going to make the playoffs. That leaves 2 other spots open, and we have a ton of teams in basically a glut that are all competing for these. And we have the Browns 7-4, the Texans miraculously at 6-5 with C.J. Stroud putting up crazy numbers. The Broncos, the Denver Broncos,
They are riding.
They are really riding. Right, the Broncos
riding.
are scary. The Broncos are a scary team. They're at 6-5. The Bills 6-6, and the Colts are at 6-5. I mean, I don't really know, to be honest with you, out of these ones. I mean, if I'm just picking the 2 best teams out of these, not looking at schedule, I'd say it's the Bills and the Broncos right now. I think the Broncos are playing they're playing playoff football right now.
Sure.
They're winning off of defense, a running game, and a quarterback, Russell Wilson, is playing really good football. Like, he's playing turnover-free, just high completion percentage. He's very efficient right now. And I trust their coaching between both of them. But the Bills have a tough schedule.
They do.
The Browns are reeling off of tons of injuries right now. What do you guys think of all these teams? And then the Colts are somehow there.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, I wouldn't sleep on the Colts, but the first team I'll say is the Broncos as well. I think they're riding a 5-game win streak. This is an insane turnaround. I think they're going to regret some of these losses, obviously, at the end of the year. You know, you lost a close game to the Commanders, the Raiders, the Jets, games you should have won, and you're going to regret that. But I think they've done enough to come back from it. This game coming up this week is arguably, we're going to talk about it, but that's a critical game. Broncos-Texans, I think whoever wins that is
inside track, yeah.
Inside track, definitely. I saw a stat that I think whoever loses this game, their playoff chances go down by 20%. So this is a critical game. I think we'll get to our predictions. But I think the Broncos have the inside track there. Texans, they play the Broncos. Outside of that, their schedule eases up. There's a Texans-Browns game, a Texans-Colts game that'll happen later in the year. So those are important games. I'm not going to predict all these games, but I think the Texans, I feel the safest in them. They have the best quarterback play right now outside of Josh Allen, but the Bills just, unfortunately, are not getting it done. And they have a much tougher schedule. So I'll go Broncos-Texans in those other 2 slots.
I will predict the nightmare scenario for Bills fans, and that doesn't involve us in the playoffs. It involves actually running the table. Josh Allen and Joe Brady, their offense completely clicks together as it has been, and they go on backs against the wall to win every game that they do, as they should, and they get into the playoffs. And we maybe squeak by, a fraudulent wild card victory on the road to some team that's squeaked in as well. And then we'll go on to play the Chiefs or the Ravens or any of the actual contenders, and it'll be a close game, or maybe it won't be, and the team will come out flat. But regardless, we will lose yet again in the playoffs due to the errors and the mistakes and the sins of Sean McDermott
He hijacked the playoff segment.
and this team in the offseason.
You just made this about Sean McDermott somehow.
This team in the offseason will come back, look at what he did, and say, hey, he pulled the team together. Let's waste another year of Josh Allen's prime. And the cycle will continue endlessly because this team will never get rid of that man. And yeah, that's what I think of the wild card race.
Wait, so you really didn't answer the question, to be honest with you.
That was a non-answer.
Yeah, you're just talking about the Bills.
Okay, all right. Bills will make the playoffs somehow. I know this bullshit team. They'll figure it out somehow.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm 100% positive.
They play the Chiefs.
I get it. I get who they play. I get
the
Cowboys, the Dolphins, the Chargers.
This team plays their best when their back's against the wall or when they just have to get wins out of nowhere. And then they'll just flop it up because they always do. But I understand this team, and they're going to do that, and everybody's going to be confused as to how it happened. Everybody's going to say we're going to the Super Bowl, and then we won't because we're not going to. Broncos will get in as well, I believe, looking at this. I think the Browns are going to slip and fall into irrelevancy.
Yeah, P.J. Walker or Joe Flacco.
It's Joe Flacco's the backup.
I don't know, maybe Joe Flacco.
I think they're out of ways to BS their ways to victory, I think.
Yeah, no, I also think Myles Garrett has a shoulder injury, which could be huge for that defense.
Yeah, okay, wait, they're cooked.
And, the Broncos, going back to them, they put up 29 points against this Browns defense. Pretty impressive. Mm-hmm. So I think we're all in agreement the Broncos are likely going to do it. I want to say the Bills are going to make it, but I think I'm gonna go with it. I think the Bills are gonna make it.
Okay, I just
I think they're gonna. Between those three games, I think they're gonna go 2-1.
I think they're a top 7 team in the AFC, but like
I think they're a top 10 team in the NFL.
But you don't get into the playoffs based off of being a top 7 team. You get into the playoffs based off your record.
I agree.
Right now, you're sitting at more losses than every other team we discussed. The Chargers have the same amount of losses as you too, and I think the Chargers have a better schedule.
4-7.
Oh,
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, they're cooked. For they lost to the Packers.
Yeah.
And forget the Chargers, but all the other teams that we talked about, the Colts, the Broncos, the Texans, have less losses than you. They have easier schedules than you. I just don't see like what the math is you guys are doing where the Bills end up in the top 7.
It's not.
I think if they get to 10, I think the nightmare scenario for the Bills. We're talking about real nightmare scenario here, playoff wise, is if the Broncos, the Texans, and the Bills all have the same record.
Yeah, we have.
And I think that ices the Bills
10 wins
out.
is not a guarantee. We have. I think it's like a 49% chance to get an even.
Also, we're not talking about the Colts enough, but they have the Titans, the Bengals, who are floundering right now. The Steelers, the Falcons, the Raiders, and the Texans.
That's a very winnable schedule.
It's a very winnable schedule, and they very much control their own destiny with games against the Steelers, with games against the Texans. I mean,
I think that's also giving me optimism at the Bills. Is so many other wildcard teams have games against themselves, so there's going to be some cannibalizing to that extent.
Maybe, but it's also the fact that the Bills'
this isn't
schedule
the
is
floor
rough.
lock. I agree, but I think the Bills could be at a point with this offense where they finally figured things out that they could actually go out and run the table if they need to.
But with the Colts, I think the Colts, the thing is that while Gardner Minshew and Shane Steichen, who's doing a really good job with this offense, has figured it out, I think the Colts are a team that can beat anyone and lose to anyone. I'm not entirely convinced.
On a 3-game win streak, and they've beaten teams they're supposed to beat now. They're finally doing it. They beat the Patriots. They beat who they beat last week?
The Panthers and the
Buccaneers. Games they should win.
Yeah, but they're playing. They're gonna play all the teams they're gonna play going forward. Maybe outside the Bengals.
The Falcons, the Raiders. Those are winnable games.
I guess, yeah. I mean, we'll see. I think the Colts, I've seen them getting to 9 wins and bottoming out there. But let's move to the NFC. We talked a lot on the AFC. The 1 seed. The Eagles are sitting there with only 1 loss right now. Big game against the Niners. That's what we're going to talk about later. And that obviously is going to play into a lot of the discussion regarding the 1 seed. But do you guys think... I personally don't think this 1 seed is locked up for the Eagles. The Eagles, the next 2 weeks, are playing the Niners and the Cowboys. Yeah. I personally think they're going to lose to the Niners. I think they could very well lose to the Cowboys, too. I know you guys probably think differently about this team. So I think the Cowboys, the Niners, and the Eagles are all in play for that 1 seed right now. But if I'm a betting man, I'd say the Eagles are going to do it. What do you guys think in terms of the 1 seed?
Yeah, I don't think there's much of a question, quite frankly. I think the Eagles do it. I mean, like, even if they drop these next 2 games, you're also counting on the Cowboys and the Niners to also run the table. And the Cowboys, for them, I don't think that's an easy feat to do. We talked about their tough games coming up against the Bills and Dolphins. And we're talking about with the Eagles-Niners because I feel like you guys are going to say some BS, you especially. I just don't understand this. No, because, like, I don't understand your issue with the Eagles. Yeah, your issue is that they seem to, like, that they...
Wait. Okay. We'll talk about this later.
Okay, we'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
I just think the Eagles are... Sorry, I've been waiting for this. The Eagles are the cream of the crop in the NFC. Yes, 2 big games coming up. The Niners also, mind you, have a tough game against the Ravens coming up as well on Christmas. So the other teams have some losable games as well. I think the Eagles cement themselves as the number 1 seed. They can do it with 2 or 3 losses as well.
I think the Eagles are on the path to the 1 seed, and I think what distinguishes them from the rest of the NFC contenders like the Cowboys and the 49ers is their head coaching management. And I'm not saying that Kyle Shanahan is a bad head coach or anything. He's an offensive genius and has brought sustained success to that team. But in the critical moments, in the clutch time, in those big game moments where it's a close game, I trust Nick Sirianni more than these coaches by a long shot. And I say this having just watched the Bills lose to the Eagles. You know, you look at Nick Sirianni and you hate the guy, like you despise him. Like he's got that stupid ass smile on his face, right? His team's always clawing back. They keep BSing their ways to victories, but that's the mark of good coaching. That is the mark of great coaching. If you can look at him and feel hatred to that man. Do you think people are looking at Sean McDermott and feeling hatred? That's my point. Like you could have all these talented rosters, but you still need the guy to take you over that top. And I think Sirianni is more capable of doing that than others.
And I've heard you use that exact same argument from Mike Tomlin so many times that like it actually infuriates me how you think that he like is working with the best roster.
Okay, I will say the Bills game did change my opinion on Sirianni.
That he's like not an elite coach.
He is.
And you can hate him if you want, but he does a good job. He does what he's supposed to do, and he's, I think, the perfect head coach for a
Especially because they had
Philly team.
All I heard in the beginning was that the Eagles losing both coordinators and they're going to struggle out of the gate this year. Even with that, even with all the struggles that they're adjusted to, they're 10-1.
Yeah,
it's impressive.
It's
It's impressive. It's impressive. I will say.
A top 5 head coach, and I think it's about time.
We'll talk about the Eagles more when we get to when we talk about Eagles Niners. So we'll hold that for then. Let's go quickly. NFC South. We don't need to spend too much time in this division. Who do you guys have winning the division?
Whoever wins it is going to lose to the Cowboys in the first round. This happened last year.
Yeah.
I don't even know, dude. I don't really care.
I'll say the Saints.
I'll say the Saints too. I think they're playing the best, and Arthur Smith refuses to actually want to win football games.
I'll say the Falcons, and I think you guys are underestimating them, and they might actually give the Cowboys, if they face them, a decent shot in the playoffs, especially at home.
We'll see. I think it's. I certainly think the Falcons have a chance. Their schedule.
I don't think this is a segment quite worth just glossing over and saying, they'll lose to the Cowboys, because...
Yeah, but realistically, there's no NFC South fans. Actually, Rocky, sorry about that.
I will note, Falcons. I just realized Falcons did beat the Saints. It's pretty critical to that final outcome. Honestly, it could come down to Week 18.
Mm-hmm.
Falcons Saints, Week 18. That could be a fun thing, honestly. The division comes down to that.
Pretty easy schedule.
Yeah, they got the Bucks, the Panthers, the Colts,
Jets,
the Bears.
Bucks, yeah.
Jesus, yeah, this is actually a really easy schedule. I might have to.
And hey, Arthur Smith's finally using Bijan.
I might. I'm sticking with the Saints. I think the Saints are the best team.
The Saints have the Lions. Then they got the Panthers, Giants, Rams, Bucks. I think it comes down to Week 18, honestly, and whoever wins that game. I'll pick the Saints in a Week 18 game, though.
Let's move to the wild card race. This is getting really interesting in the NFC. We have, essentially, we'll say the Cowboys have locked up one spot, 100% probably. And you have 4 teams, I'd say, probably in contention for the last 2 spots. You have the Vikings at 6-6. Josh Dobbs, maybe the quarterback one, maybe switch after the bye. We'll see. Packers.
It'd be foolish to switch. I mean,
Josh
Dobbs had one bad game, and I think that he got overrated again, as what happened when he first came to the Cardinals. But at this point, you're playing with playoff hopes. I mean, I don't know if you go to a 4th, 5th round rookie and trust him when you at least have someone who's played at a high level before on your roster.
True. We have the Packers ascending. Jordan Love, 5-6, big game Sunday Night Football against the Chiefs this week. You have the Seahawks at 6-5, kind of the opposite. The Seahawks are very much on the downswing right now and have a tough schedule. They're playing the Cowboys tonight. By the time this goes out, I expect the Cowboys to have probably beaten the Seahawks. And then they play the Eagles after that, and then they play the Niners again. So it could be 3 more losses left for the Seahawks. And then the Rams. Matt Stafford's healthy, Kyron Williams back, Cooper Kupp healthy, Puka Nacua is a very frisky team. Out of these 4 teams, the 2 teams I'm most confident in are the Packers and the Rams. I really like what the Rams are doing. I think when Stafford's healthy, the Rams are very much a force to be reckoned with. I think they're one of the most fun offenses to watch in the league. The offensive line is rebuilt. I think Sean McVay is still a top 5 coach in the league. And I think with Stafford, they'll always have a chance to contend. I think the Packers, Jordan Love, I'm a big Jordan Love guy, but I think it's finally happening. I think that Lions game on Thanksgiving, everyone got to see how good Jordan Love really is. And I think he's going to continue to do that. Their schedule is not hard. They will play the Vikings again. I think the Packers, in terms of all these teams, I think the Packers and the Rams have the most momentum, and I think that's going to carry through the rest of December and into January.
I agree with you on the Packers. I think they have a lot of momentum. I think the Vikings are on the downswing. I think the Josh Dobbs Linsanity run is unfortunately over. For part 2 of Linsanity is unfortunately over. Here's where it gets interesting, though. I think the I like the Packers. I think they control their own destiny a lot. That game against the Vikings is crucial. I think we were just talking about how easy this NFC South schedule was for the Falcons and the Saints. They're all sitting at 5-6, just like the Packers, just like the Rams. I don't think it's insane that 2 NFC South teams make the playoffs in a very weak bottom half of the NFC.
Insanely mediocre.
Yeah, these last 2 slots are going to be insanely mediocre. They're going to lose in the first round of the playoffs, undoubtedly. But I think if I have to bet right now, I'm going to say the Rams, and I'm going to say the Falcons make the playoffs.
You're saying the Packers? Oh.
No. I'm saying no Packers, though. I like the Packers. I don't like them that much. I think the Rams and the Falcons are the teams I'm going to go with here. Rams are playing well right now. Their offense looks good. Packers, Jordan Love has been good, but has also been inconsistent at times, and I think it'll show against the Chiefs this week. This is a tough one, though.
This
It's a whole lot of
Yeah.
mid. It's a whole
Yeah.
lot of mid.
You know what? I'm gonna say the Seahawks.
The Hawks?
I think
Hawks.
the Hawks can do it. I think their schedule.
Their
is
schedule is brutal.
Yeah.
I don't care. You know what, bro? Pete Carroll and Geno, that's a good duo, and they've gotten too much disrespect. And I think they'll get at least one of those wins, then win out those last 3 to get themselves to 10 wins. Because quite frankly, looking at the rest of this list, none of it inspires confidence, except for the Rams as well. But I'm just concerned about the Rams being in the same division as the Seahawks.
They sweeped it though. They will have the
there
tiebreaker.
no more games between them, right?
Yeah, they 2-0 against the Seahawks this year.
Honestly, I'm content to say Seahawks and Rams. I think they're far and away the 2 best teams in that list. You could talk schedule all you want. I just don't think teams like the Packers, Vikings, maybe the Falcons. Who knows? I think whoever gets to the playoffs is going to win the division there. I don't think those teams, no matter how favorable the schedule is, really can be trusted down the stretch here to pull those wins together. I just have much more faith in McVay and Carroll and their respective quarterbacks to go out and get it done.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this year, I think coaching quarterbacks the recipe to get wins in this league. I think that's the one constant.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, let's move on to, we've talked a lot about the playoff picture. Let's talk what's clear and present, Week 13. This isn't really a game we're previewing, but Rohan, our teams are playing this weekend, Steelers-Cardinals.
They are, in
I
fact,
will say,
playing.
if there's one game I'm so scared for the Steelers this year, it is the Cardinals. Kyler Murray fucking terrifies me. I think this is a prime game for the Steelers to lose. It's an athletic, mobile quarterback who's underperforming, and his roster sucks, but could magically go off against us. That being said, I think the Steelers are going to win, but I guarantee it's going to be a very, very close game.
Like every game is for the Steelers.
Where even though it shouldn't be, but it's going to be a very, very close game. But I expect Kyler Murray to throw a pick on the last drive.
Why don't you go first?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Kenny Pickett and Mr. Pickens and Deontay Johnson, for that matter, are going to
Hopefully he gets his act together this
shred.
week.
They're going to demolish this defense. And I don't think it's going to be particularly close. I think the Steelers are going to have a little coming out party for their offense and try to silence
I
a lot
hope
of the
so.
haters and disrespecters. And Murray could try valiantly, but he's still getting somewhat acclimated. He had a great game. But Steelers' defense is no joke, and I think the Steelers will come out and try to make a statement with this game.
Yeah. First, I want to acknowledge how you flipped the script on Kyler Murray.
I have.
Yeah.
I will admit,
Can you admit on camera that you were wrong?
I was wrong about Kyler Murray. I think he's a franchise quarterback, and he's also the franchise quarterback of my 10-1, soon to be 11-1 fantasy team.
For Tank, though.
Should we draft Caleb Williams?
No, they should not.
Should we draft Drake May?
They should not. They should draft Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yes.
Will you further respect Kyler Murray?
I will. What am I like giving my holy oath right now? I didn't know if I was.
Please do.
Yeah, Kyler Murray's a good quarterback. Didn't realize that was that high of a take. Sorry.
Well, you thought you made it.
I did not say he was a bad quarterback. I said he was mediocre.
God.
Please do not put words. Please do not
you said
put words
he was
in my
not
mouth.
a franchise quarterback. When you
Whoa!
for Caleb Williams.
Roll the tape. Roll the
You
tape.
were saying
Someone
we should-
roll the
you were
tape. I'm
saying
not
we
going to
should
do
draft
it.
Caleb
But
Williams, bro.
I said they might be tempted to. Look, man. I'm not in the business. I'm not an NFL GM. I can really predict what NFL GMs may do.
Have some conviction.
Yeah, no conviction in his
Come on, man.
words whatsoever. You just say everything and hope no one remembers.
I hope that you remember.
But Kyler Murray is playing really well. I think, granted, he has like literally nothing around him to help him. His offensive line sucks. I fear for TJ Watt and what he can do to Kyler Murray. The James Conner is fine. We have no receiving
James Conner,
talent.
revenge game.
Trey McBride is good for my fantasy team, but I don't know if he's actually that good or if he's just the only one who has hands on this team. Offense, like I don't know. It's not a good offense. Jesus Christ, what is our defense?
Yeah, it's
our
bad
defense
defense.
is god awful. I think this is the get right game for the Steelers offense, like you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're gonna have to shred us that much. I just think they can run the ball over and over again, and they'll have a lot of success. Saw that last week. Kyron Williams ran all over us. It was a pretty pathetic showing from our defense. It's whatever. I mean, the defense isn't good. We knew it wasn't going to be good. I think it'll still be close because it's the Steelers, and you guys will find a way to make it close. So I'll say Steelers win, but it'll be like 23-20 or something like that.
Agreed. Now moving on to the actual games this weekend. We already alluded to these teams. Texans, Broncos. Texans are favored by, I believe, 3.5.
Is it in Houston?
I believe it's in Houston, yeah.
Okay.
Interesting spread. I actually would have expected the Broncos to be favored, but people are really confident in C.J. Stroud, and for good reason. I mean, he's playing like a top 5 quarterback this season as a rookie. That being said, I think this team, the Texans, their problem is their youth, I think. They're just very young. Their coach is, first-time head coach, first-time play caller, first-time quarterback, top first-time receiver. I think the Broncos have experience with Sean Payton, Russell Wilson. The defense is getting after, I think, most turnovers in the NFL over the win streak the past 5 games. C.J. Stroud doesn't turn over the ball, but if they're able to create turnovers, Russell Wilson does not turn over the ball, playing very efficient. I think we saw last week that the Texans really committed to stopping the run and forcing Trevor Lawrence to pass, and he did a good job. Mm-hmm. And I expect Russell Wilson to do the same this week. I think the Broncos win a close one. I think this defense gets a turnover from C.J. Stroud, and the Broncos are able to run the ball with Javonte Williams, Samaje Perine, and say they win 27-24. I think it's going to be a great game, though. Looking forward to it.
I appreciate all the points you brought up about experience and how that is in the Broncos' favor. But I think with a team like the Texans, that sort of thing just doesn't matter because you have players and coaches who are, in a way, wise beyond their years.
It's true.
They know how to win games. They understand not to make mistakes in crucial moments. And they've been able to put together clutch drives and clutch moments to win games. Now, that doesn't mean that I necessarily think the Texans are going to beat them. I still favor the Broncos here. But I don't think it's going to come down to the Broncos playing a smarter game necessarily. I just think Russell Wilson is going to have a great game himself and finally be asked to carry the offense in a shootout with C.J. Stroud, and Broncos are going to come out just on top. Let's call it 33-30.
Yeah.
High scoring. I think, I don't know. The Broncos are playing really, first of all, the Broncos are playing outstandingly well right now. Like I said, Russell Wilson's extremely efficient. They're using Javonte Williams as that workhorse. I think it's opening things up in the passing game. Defense, led by Pat Surtain, Justin Simmons, is playing lights out as well. I don't know. The Broncos are just playing good football. They're one of those teams that they beat the Chiefs at the beginning of this streak. They've won some close games against the Vikings, against the Bills. They're just proving that they have those ways to win. The Texans couldn't get it done in a close game last week against the Jaguars. Granted, it's a young team, but I think the Broncos are playing a lot more consistent right now, so I'll go with them as well. I'll say I think it'll be a bit lower scoring, around 24-20 for the Broncos.
Should be a good game.
Yeah.
But now let's move on to the marquee matchup of the week, maybe of the year so far, I'd say, of all these games. So. Since last January, I think all of us have been looking forward to this. The 49ers are heading back to the Link, face off against the Eagles.
This is in San Francisco, isn't it?
No, it's in Philly.
Oh, really? Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
It's the Niners last January, Brock Purdy tore his UCL in the end of the first quarter. And since then they've been basically on a tour of vengeance to prove that they were the team that should have been the Super Bowl last year. I personally thought last year this team was going to win the Super Bowl with a healthy Brock Purdy. Or no, I thought they would make it to the Super Bowl and lose to the Chiefs. Rohan already alluded to it. If you guys have seen our power rankings, you see I have the Niners at 1. I think the Niners are the best team in the NFL. I think when they're on, they can beat everyone in this league by multiple scores. The way I see this game going is no disrespect to the Eagles. Look, the Eagles are a very, very, very good team. Don't get me wrong. Possibly the most talented roster top to bottom in the league. But the Eagles have had a habit in the past couple weeks against the Chiefs, against the Bills, and across the season, against the Commanders we saw earlier this season, of starting off slow and getting themselves back in the game. I don't know if that's going to work against the Niners this week. The Niners are coming in there with a massive chip on their shoulder. Brock Purdy has had to have this game circled on the schedule going back to week 1. He's got to be pissed off, and this whole team is, because they thought they had a chance last year. Nothing's more powerful than the power of belief, and I think that the Niners are going in there with belief, with anger. I think Christian McCaffrey's going to have a great game. Deebo Samuel, Ayuk, Kittle, Trent Williams is playing. If they're healthy, this team can beat anyone. I expect it to be a great game, close game, but I expect the Niners to get off to a hot start. Eagles fight their way back into it, but that Niners pass rush closes out the game. I think the Niners are going to win 28-24. Again, no disrespect to the Eagles. The Eagles are a good team. Don't get me wrong. But the Niners are the best team in the NFL and my personal Super Bowl pick right now.
I think the Niners win this game as well, but it's not for the same reasons that you just iterated. It's because the Eagles are the true class of the NFC. And the Niners are going to come in motivated. They're going to have that loss coming off, like you said, wanting that vengeance. And, they're going to catch the Eagles somewhat off guard, and they'll claim this victory, and they'll go back to San Francisco really happy about it. But in the Eagles, they don't care. They'll internalize it, and you know what? They'll get ready for the playoffs. And the next time they see them, they'll take care of business because they're the better team. And you know, I'll relate it again to another Bills story. When the Bills beat the Chiefs, for example, in the regular season 2 years ago, great, wonderful victory. We're amazing. We're the best. But regular season, who cares about the regular season? We go to the playoffs, we lose to the Chiefs. We lose to the Chiefs 2 years in a row. And I think the Bills are going to win again to the Chiefs next week, and they're just going to lose in the playoffs.
It's really amazing how you managed to turn every segment into a Bills.
We're talking about the Bills.
This is some of the NFC, bro.
This is therapy for me. Well,
you feel have a real talent.
No, but regardless, to tie it back to the Eagles, the Eagles are like the Chiefs. The Eagles are like the Chiefs of the NFC in the sense that they're the best team, they're the best coach team, and I fundamentally have faith in them to pull things off when it matters. And you know, I think the Niners will win this regular season matchup, but I don't think it'll matter in the long run. I think the Eagles will still get the 1 seed, and they'll still take care of business in the playoffs.
I don't hate that take. I would tend to agree with you that the Eagles will take care of them in the playoffs. But, I mean, first thing, you're playing in Philly. This Eagles team doesn't lose in Philly. They haven't lost in Philly all year. You're coming, I mean, I don't know how big a deal this is, but you're coming with the weather. This Eagles team is more equipped for that, especially when you get into winter, December football in comparison to the Niners. Next thing is, I mean, as good as Brock Purdy has been, and as he has played, this Niners team starts off on the ground. Their offense is based on what Christian McCaffrey can do on the ground, and then you go up against the best defensive line in the country. I think the Niners are a close second, but with the defensive line of Hassan Reddick, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, all these guys rotating through again and again and again.
Fletcher Cox is probably not going to play, by the way.
Oh, really? Okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I mean, still, Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter are more than enough. I think that they will set out to stop the run and force Brock Purdy to win this game by himself. That's what they force a lot of quarterbacks to do. I was looking at the stats right now. I mean, these teams just aren't running the ball against the Eagles because I think the Eagles are selling out. They're forcing the quarterbacks to make those plays and daring them to do that. And can Brock Purdy do that in a very important game?
Yes, he can. Yes, he can.
I think he can. To what extent, I don't know. But do you know who can do it better than anyone right now? Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is playing lights-out clutch football. You saw it last week when he goes down to the Bills, an elite throw to Olamide Zaccheaus in the end zone, an elite drive to get them into field goal range, an elite game-winning drive where he runs into the end zone in overtime.
I think Bailey Zappi could have scored a touchdown against that defensive unit there, in all fairness. Not to take away from Jalen Hurts.
Yeah. But my point is I think when you're talking about, I mean, I'm finally understanding what you're saying. You made that Patrick Mahomes argument last year that he just gets it done, you know? When you put Patrick Mahomes in his games, he's got that dog in him. He gets it done. Exactly. I mean, it doesn't matter who his receivers are. If you give him the ball 2 minutes left, you're confident he'll get it done. Jalen Hurts is not at that level yet.
We'll see.
But he's showing similar things. Where when it matters, he gets shit done.
Yeah.
You saw it in overtime games against the Commanders. You see it constantly against the Chiefs as well. I think that's that ability that gives me confidence in him. Throw in the fact that it's at home for Philly. I like the Eagles here. I'll call it a very, very close game, obviously. 27-24. Eagles win on a Jake Elliott field goal to clinch it.
If we include the ref factor of the Eagles playing.
I'm so sick of this.
Ref correction.
I'm so sick of ref. Oh, this is such BS.
No, it is a very real phenomenon.
Have you seen the statistics on the Eagles?
No, the statistics are actually pretty
I hate like all these like, oh, the refs want it for them. Oh, the refs messed this.
They want the Kelsey. They want that Kelsey bowl.
No, it's not like that. It's the home effect. Like there are genuine savages in Philadelphia. I'm not apologizing to the Philadelphia people because they know what I'm talking about.
yeah, that's true.
Like
there are some,
and they get in the refs' head because look at it, dude. They have like the least calls against at home and the most calls for. Like it's absurd. And
what if they just play good football?
That's not how that works.
I think it's both.
There's no such thing as coaching good enough to get both of those things in terms of flags. At some point, there's outside factors.
There were a lot of questionable calls in that Bills game.
The only questionable call that I saw was
the horse
Darius.
collar.
No, that wasn't a horse collar, dude. He tugged.
He got his back.
The fact that
and then it was intentional grounding as well. On top of that, Gabe Davis was in the area.
By his back and pull. You can't do that.
There was no clear angle that shows that he grabbed
Yeah, there was,
the
bro.
collar
Yes,
in
he did.
the angle.
He did.
No, I think he just grabbed.
No, but on
Jersey.
top of that, they also had the gall to call intentional grounding on that exact same play.
Yeah, when Gabe Davis was 2 yards away.
Yeah.
Oh really? Oh,
Yes.
I didn't see that. Okay, that was kind of crazy.
And then
So-
there was also many phantom holdings that even Tony Romo and Jim Nantz were confused about,
Yeah.
which was about the closest I've ever seen a rigged game.
But anyway, all that being said, the
Yeah.
Eagles are a very good team. Niners
Yeah.
are a very good team. We'll see. This should be a fun game this weekend. Hopefully, no injuries, and everyone's healthy and able to play. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you, Kamil, for coming back on the show.
Thank you. For
If the Bills make it back in the playoffs, or if Shree doesn't cover another episode, I guess we can get you back. Why not? But make sure to check out our power rankings on Instagram, along with our picks as well. Check out our YouTube and Spotify for episodes like this. All right, my name is Arjun and Rohan.
Oh. Usually Shree's going next.
Yes.
Okay, do you want to do that again?
Yep.
Keep this in.
Okay, got it. My name is Arjun and Rohan. You already heard that.
I'm Rohan Patel.
And I'm Kamil Lemdani.
And we'll see you next week in Week 14 on the turf.
Let's go!